Radiant Souls podcast, episode number 2. Today, I am excited to welcome on Anistara Ma Ka, who I've known for quite a long time in the performing world. Today, she comes on to talk about spirituality and self-discovery. Let's go ahead and welcome on Anistara Ma Ka and enjoy today's conversation. Please also remember to like this episode, comment, and share with anyone who you think might be interested in this content. Thank you so much and enjoy today's episode. Here we are on the Radiant Souls podcast, and today I am welcoming Anistara Ma Ka, who I've known for a while through the performing world, and today she joins us to talk about spirituality and self-discovery. And Anistara, what would you like to share with the world about who you are?
Oh, thank you, beloved Sequoia. It's such an honor to be here with you today. Yes, so I am in service to humanity's awakening. And as an event coordinator, I love to create multidimensional experiences for people's awakening path. And so that includes a lot of different things. I am the mother of 1111 Unified Network, which we started our 1111 gatherings 15 years ago. And we went virtual in 2020. And so that network keeps growing. And last year, I birthed the 1111 Ascension University. And this university is going to be filled with so many amazing teachers and visionaries and pioneers of the new earth. And I'm just so excited to be in collaboration with a lot of really powerhouse, mostly women, as we are embracing this awakening path together.
I love that how you've been doing something for 15 years, like putting the energy into the university for 15 years, but it's taken probably some ascended new directions as you've continued to grow and move through your process.
Yeah, indeed. I had my first Kundalini awakening, or the first real, true, like, oh, I'm a multidimensional being of light here in a human body experience about 18 years ago when my higher self, Anistara, entered my body. You've known me as Candace, founder of Holistic Hooping. And I was doing a lot of work around clearing the chakra channel and having that Kundalini experience through hoop dance. And yeah, the day my husband and I got married, Anistara very much came in, and I couldn't use gas. I couldn't touch money. I couldn't do anything or touch anything that had a barcode on it. It was a very interesting experience. And God bless this man, Andrew, my beloved husband. He said, "What do you need, Anistara?" Because I was channeling for like 3 days straight. I couldn't go to sleep. I was just receiving so many downloads at once. And I said, "I just need some time alone." And bless him, we had just gotten married. And he rented a cabin for me up in the mountains overlooking the ocean. And I just wrote and painted and drew and read and walked in nature. And I just had the opportunity to just be. Mm-hmm. And then after a few months, he really invited me back home. He's like, "Come on, I married Candace. Let's go. Bring her back." And I came home, and that's when holistic hooping really took off, and my Kundalini hoop dance experience and modality. And my business just took off at that point because I was integrating everything that I had been learning and channeling during that time. And so since then, I've had a lot of growth spurts. And at this point, I feel like I am here in service to those who are going through exactly what I went through 18 years ago. They have a loss of identity. Their life doesn't make sense anymore. They might not be happy in the relationship or the home or the job that they're in, and they're ready for something new.
Yeah, that can be a very disorienting experience to go through that, and then to live in the world where, you know, you've been known yourself as one way, and it's really no different than how you've known yourself, but it takes this other life form, right? And the disorientation can take a while sometimes to land in. So I love that you're offering yourself in support to people that are experiencing that. Because also I think sometimes when people are going through it, they maybe aren't even aware they're going through it. Like some of us, and some of us, some other people are like, something is happening to me. I have no idea what's happening. Everything is like discombobulated and crazy right now. Do you have any words of advice, or, what can someone look for maybe that they might be experiencing right now that would cue them into like, am I experiencing this?
Yeah, that's such a good question. Thank you for asking it, because the course that I created, our level 1 course for the university, it's actually called You're Not Crazy, You're Just Awakening. Because a lot of people believe that, oh my gosh, my whole life doesn't make sense. What's going on? Am I going nuts? My coach said, what did you wish somebody said to you 18 years ago? And I said, I wish somebody just told me I wasn't crazy. I was just waking up. And so what happens when people are going through the ascension process is they experience what's called ascension symptoms. And it could be sleeplessness, anxiety, depression. As I said before, loss of identity, like life doesn't make sense. You can begin seeing things and hearing things. And as your frequency rises, certain foods, certain situations, certain environments, certain relationships don't serve you in your higher frequency any longer. And so you can lose friends, you can lose family members, people just don't understand you any longer. And so this can result in a lot of feelings of feeling disconnected, feeling confused, maybe feeling lost. And so I invite you, beloveds, who are feeling like you are star seeds waking up, that you do have a purpose. Your soul signed a contract to come here and play out in this field of 3-dimensionality in the way that is going to serve you and others around you in the highest and best way. So just know that there are many on the awakening path right now. And in fact, we're getting to a tipping point in humanity's consciousness where people are going to wake up big time and really, really quickly. And so there is support for you here at the Ascension University. There is community here that you can tune in and tap in with and not feel alone any longer.
Yeah, excellent. So also when you're saying that, I'm thinking about the experience of going through that process, and the frequency is growing and the 3D body is kind of going through this process of like, like what's happening here? It's a little slower to move sometimes in the other frequencies. So
Yeah.
what do you have suggestions for people when they're going through that? Because the body tends to move at a slower pace, right?
Yeah.
So what's something someone can do to support their body as they're going through that, to bring their body online more fully?
Yeah. Thank you. So the first thing is be aware of what you're consuming, whether it's media, whether it's food, whatever you're drinking. Like, stay away from processed foods entirely. Try and eat organic as much as possible, like high frequency foods. Raw vegetables and fruit. Stay away from the grains, and especially gluten, like things that are really, really highly processed. Like, my body now cannot accept gluten and corn. And I actually get like a little bit of a rash, and I get totally inflamed and bloated, and my body literally won't accept low frequency foods anymore. So that's one thing, is being aware of what you're intaking, and being mindful too, again, that even when you're intaking any kind of media, that you have your what I like to call rainbow shield around you. I have to put mine up, especially when I go to the city and I'm around a lot of people and traffic and energy. So being aware of what you're allowing in, because as your light becomes more in tune with your activated light body, then you want to create a field that allows more light in so that you can shine even brighter in your higher awakened self. Another thing too is just mindfulness practices, like even how you eat. Do you sit down? Do you take time? Do you chew your food? Just being mindful. And then, of course, having gratitude practices in the morning, in the evening, always sharing what you're grateful for. Um, Vision board creations, journaling, all kinds of things like this will help you move through the process more smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yoga, breath work, all the things that feel like you feel good when you're doing it.
Yeah, I love that you said feel good, because to everybody that's a little different. And yet there are certain things that do help when somebody finds, hey, dance really works for me, or
Yeah,
hooping really works for me, or
yeah,
taking a walk, or whatever, or sitting in a sauna. So many of those different things are going to be different for everybody, but finding that thing that feels good can help them in that way. With this process of wakening up, it's like we talk about it, and there's always that side that's like, okay, I went through this process and I'm doing the gratitude practices, but there's also that other side, that is still sloughing itself off, that kind of can take people into really challenging places like dark nights of the soul and some of these other places that
yeah,
they're moving through. Do you want to share anything about that type of an experience that people could be going through in these times, especially as they
yeah,
become more sensitive, and
yeah.
there's so much going on.
There
Yeah.
is. Yeah, there is so much going on. And, Sequoia, I actually heard something recently and I love it and I'm adopting it and using it and sharing it, is that it's a dark night of the ego because the
Oh.
soul is already whole and complete, right? And so it's the old ego dying. It's the old identity and that can be still trapped and stuck and feeling fear, anxiety, resentment, regret. And it's not about spiritually bypassing those things because, of course, the different emotions come up for you to learn the lessons. It's about understanding that when you are beginning to embody your higher self, that those things can just come from a place of, okay, I accept that I made those choices. Okay, I forgive myself. I have compassion for myself. And to remember to give yourself grace.
Hmm.
Always give yourself grace because if you begin within and you are working on how much you love and care for yourself and give yourself that forgiveness and acceptance and compassion, that will shine through who you're newly being. Dr. Joe Dispenza is an amazing resource. If you're not familiar with them, listeners, he's incredible and he really teaches a lot about the science behind releasing the old identity to make room for the new. And so when you're going through a dark night of the ego, just remember that you have support and that if you continue to have faith more than anything, faith and trust in your path, in your soul's knowing, in your heart's desires, and the fact that you do have a purpose and a mission. And if you feel lost in understanding what that is, that's one of the things I like to help my clients with is purpose clarity so that
Mhm.
you're not confused anymore. You can be crystal clear exactly what your soul wants to share with the world. And then how do you actually balance who you're spiritually being with what you're doing to make money? And
Mhm.
then, wow, miracles happen, doors open, abundance flows in when you're in that aligned and synchronized higher frequency of who you truly are and the truth of who you are.
Yeah, and I like that you said that you're helping people come into clarity with those messages, because when we're in it, sometimes it is very confusing and it's hard to try to sort it out. So it's helpful to have another person present to help us organize all the parts a little bit, to say like, yes, that, no, that. Oh, I
Mhm.
didn't think about that, and bring that in. So I love that. And I also love the dark night of the ego and replacing that with the dark night of the soul, because yes, we are perfect, complete, and whole,
Yeah.
and it is the ego that is dying off, and remembering that. And I think that's the thing there. Sometimes when stuff is coming up, we forget, we think, oh, there's that wound or that trauma, and then we start to regurgitate it
Oh,
again, as opposed to recognizing, no, wait, this is coming up so that it can be released.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, this happens a lot, especially with like, say, the inner critic, right?
Hmm.
That inner critic comes in and we're the ones stopping us from doing anything that we want to create in our life. We are, because ultimately it's our choice. And
Hmm.
so when that inner critic sets in, I have a whole practice around how to release and let go of the inner critic and how to switch that inside neurologically into your biggest cheerleader. Because who else is going to really truly believe in you if you don't believe in yourself first? So yeah, it's interesting because there's so, as you said before, there's so much happening right now in the field, and you can allow as much of that in as you want, or you can say, this is not a part of my higher frequency and vibration right now. This piece of content is not going to serve me right now. And I am not going to inundate myself with that because it will set off triggers. It will set off old traumas. It will set off things that you could come to completion with within yourself. And so many people spend so much money on therapy. And I believe in working in the quantum field and through theta healing practices and other processes, we're able to heal things instantaneously. I have one client, she was suffering from asthma for a long time. And she came to one session with me. It was a 75-minute session. And after the end of the session, she had no more problems breathing. I actually just checked in with her again a couple of weeks ago, and she's like running now. So, things like everyday things like asthma to, spiritual crises are things that can be healed within the quantum.
And that's a really important awareness to remember on this journey, is that we have access to that technology within us, just like that. And it's no longer that old, it's going to take, 5, 10, 20 years or a lifetime to do it. But it is that remembering, that staying connected to remember that we have access to that technology. And again, seeking support from people like yourself who are doing this work to help people remember and show them the way to activate this technology within them. I'm wondering also, was there a point in your journey when Anistara came in, you were also Candace? And I know like there was holistic hooping, and now there's this kind of new, it's not a new process, but it's a new sharing that you're putting forward that's like a different path. And what was that point where you made that conscious like shift over to like, aha, here it is, this is what I'm doing?
Oh, Sequoia, I'm so happy that you mentioned that because I'm going to share something here that I haven't really publicly shared too much before. 19 years ago, before my Kundalini awakening, I had a friend visiting here from England, and he did a psychic reading with Andrew and I. And he basically draws your spirit guide or your guardian angel. And so he drew mine. It was a blonde man. He looked very Arcturian, and his name was Arengard. And then he drew Andrew's guardian angel and spirit guide, and it was a dark-haired woman, looked very Native American, and her name was Anistara. Like he wrote it on the bottom of the paper. And Andrew and I were like, wow, I really like that name. If we ever have a daughter, we want to call her Anistara. And so cut forward, like literally a year later, and I had that awakening experience. And we came home from our wedding, and Andrew's like, so what can I get for, I'm like, and he's like, Candace. And I'm like, no, I'm Anastara. He's like, Candace, really? And I'm like, no, I'm Anastara. And I started to try and explain to him the full on connection to the Akashic records, like all the downloads I was receiving in instantaneously, like all the wisdom of my lifetime suddenly inside me, and I couldn't express it with human English language fast enough for him to understand. And cut forward that 3 months that I spent up on the mountain, and he invited me back home. He's like, look, I really need Candace to come back. I married her. Can you please come back? And I agreed to it. And I came back, and that's when my business took off. And so about 4.5 years ago, was it? Let's see, it's 2024. Yeah, actually, the summer of 2019, we were in Lake Shasta. I host a annual event there. And when we were there on the third night, I couldn't fall asleep. And I suddenly felt a presence, and I heard Anastara's voice, and my son Cadence was laying next to me. And I said, do you hear her? And he's like, yeah, Mom, she's back. Because I had told her about Anastara, and he has actually seen her in visions. And so I had a conversation with her and basically very clearly heard, it's time now. you're not going to say no. This time we have work to do and we're going to do this now. And I said, okay, so are you going to be like my child? Am I going to birth you? Are you my pen name? Because I was channeling a book. What do you want? And she's like, it's up to you. And so a couple months later, I got pregnant and we very much wanted to have a daughter. And it ended in a miscarriage. And I had another conversation with that spirit and was like, what do I do now? And she's like, we don't have time for me to be born. This is happening now. And I said, okay. And so I started asking Andrew and my beloveds and my family around me to start calling me Anistara. And the more that I would hear that name, I would feel the embodiment of my higher self inside me.
Mhm.
And navigating this 3D realm just became easier for me because I knew that that was the truth of who I was supposed to be here. And so that was the turning point. And then of course 2020 and the lockdown and the full identity of Anistara, or not identity, but the embodiment of Anistara starting to really be birthed.
Yeah, that time frame was very interesting, and I can resonate with that because in 2019, I also had a very strong, like there was something I'd been cultivating for a long time, second to the fire dance group. But I had been not putting any energy into it. And 2019, I heard the voices so loud, but I was ignoring them. Like, I don't understand what that means. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like, I don't even know. It seems too much. I'm just going to perform forever. Right. And in 2020, there was like a moment where I watched like the towers I built with my own hands crashing down, and like the universe sitting there going, woman, you're going to sit there and listen now. And I was like, ah, right. And I still fought it and resisted it because I'm stubborn, and I've been moving forward. The more that I embrace it, the more that it gets easier, right? But I was not going easy. So I really resonate with your story there. Because there was something about that time frame, I think, for some of us where we've been cultivating for something for a long time, and there was that now, like, you don't get to not listen anymore. Like, you're gonna do this in whatever way or shape or form. Like,
yeah. And it happened for so many, right? It's like it was a great pause button for humanity. And those who weren't ready to hear that inner calling continued with life and went on to a job that they don't like and all the things, but they're starting to hear it again, right? Because of the gravity of what's happening in the outside world. And so those who did really take that time to go and begin within and listen inside and begin to make that shift, I feel like are the ones who are leading this new earth paradigm. They are the ones who are willing and wanting to step into leadership, and not just as a coach or a guide or a mentor, but just to lead with love and compassion and acceptance and integrity and accountability, because those are the frequencies that we are embodying and calling in for our new earth together.
absolutely. So you mentioned something, and I want to ask about this. We are in this time period right now, and I realize that viewers might watch this at whatever time period, and time is irrelevant. However, we are sitting in between one eclipse and another eclipse, which are very potent eclipses for this time period. What are you tuning into? Like, what information do you have? What do you want to share regarding this process about what you're experiencing?
It's interesting. I did a live a little bit earlier this morning because I recently lost a friend. And we're in the full moon. Lunar eclipse just happened, right, in March. And now we're moving into April and the full solar eclipse. And my family and I are traveling right now to go to the Texas Eclipse Festival to be with our international tribe. This is such an important moment because of exactly what's happening in the world. Like, this is the important moment to ground in not just the prayer for peace, but to anchor the light for planet Earth. Those who have been feeling called to be in greater service, to move from a selfish lifestyle into selfless service and being in service to others. this moment in time is so critical and crucial. Like we are literally on a precipice. And as I mentioned before, that 100th monkey, like we're going to be at a tipping point in human consciousness where suddenly millions of people are waking up to the truth of this realm of where we're at here in our human evolution, where we are consciously, with the AI and everything that's happening right now. And remembering, I like to say we're remembering that we are all one within the unified field. And when we really truly understand that, and our thoughts and our behaviors and our actions are dictated by the fact and the knowing that we are all interconnected, that we are not separate entities in a world of duality, that we are all one energy and frequency, it's going to be even more important to raise your frequency, raise your vibration, and stay at that high level, because those who are in the denser field are going to need our help more than ever.
Yeah.
So,
And do you
yeah.
feel like the best way that we can help those people is by maintaining and holding our frequency at that higher level? And just the more that we hold that space, the more that it creates the opening for others to come into that more expanded, ascended frequency, correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And knowing too that each person is on their path back to source in their own way.
Mhm.
Whatever culture, whatever religion, whatever your upbringing is, everyone has their own path to source. And so having compassion for everyone's path and where they're at on that path is so important. And so our job as light workers is to just continue embodying the light and sharing the light in the best ways that we know how. And of course, we're human. And of course, we still make mistakes. And we can forgive ourselves, accept that that happened. I was supposed to learn that lesson for a reason and move on.
Yes. Yeah, I was calling this the imperfectly perfect podcast because I was like saying that there's going to be mistakes, there's going to be issues, like we're going to
Yeah.
roll with it, right?
Yes. Love it.
Okay, so is that like when people join into the 1111 University, these are some of the things they can experience and practice and learn techniques with
Yes.
working through in 1111 University. Is there anything you'd like to share about the university?
Oh, yeah, sure. So, well, here's the thing. There is, it's an ongoing process, right? There's always going to be more to learn. There's always going to be more for me to integrate into this technique. But not but, and I call it the Ascension integration technique. It's the new Earth's AI, right? Because it's about integrating our ascended selves. And so, how do we do that? And so, I guide my clients through this modality, through this technique with different processes and visualizations and journal prompts. I mean, there's so much, it's so robust. I can't get into an explanation of everything, but each method or each technique builds on itself. And so the point here is that you can go from a place of feeling confused and lost and disconnected into feeling connected, feeling clarity in your purpose, and understanding that you can trust your path so that you can rise into your new earth leadership. And so we like to say that we're empowering new earth leaders. That's the intention of the university. And of course, 1111 is tied into everything that I do, because the codex that 1111 brings forth it is an awakening code. And those who see it, often any angel number, really, 444, 555, 88, like when we follow those numbers, we actually follow the signs and the synchronicities and the alignments for us. And so instead of trying to pound down on old doors that have been closed for a long time or banging our heads against them, I invite you, friends, to walk the path that's being guided for you. Because when we do that, and when we do it together collectively, more power happens. Like each prayer, each intention gets magnified and amplified. Say on 1111, at 1111,
Yeah.
right? So this year, we're actually going to be at the Temple of Isis on 11/11. And so our 11/11 gathering started in our home, went to a bigger home, went to a retreat center, and then 2020, they turned virtual. The last 2 years, they've been hybrid. There was a live event and a virtual event. And this year is our first year that we're actually taking a sacred pilgrimage to a sacred site, because our intention is to visit the sacred sites on 11/11, have a network of people around the planet at the new and the old sites, so that we can reactivate our planetary light grid together and set those strong intentions on that portal day.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm sure. And in a moment, I'm going to have you share a little bit about that. And I'm thinking
Uh-huh.
too, 11/11 is such an important portal. But I also, with the 11/11 is like, I'm especially attracted to the 11/11, but I like to look at it like pillars,
Yeah.
because it's like, it could be a mirror, but it's also like a pillars are part of a structure. But I also always tend to, people will say, well, what does 11/11 mean? Or what does 444 mean? And they want to go look it up and see what some external source says. And I'm just like, well, tune in and see what it means for you, right? And
Exactly.
you'll know your truth of that. So do you want to share? So one, I know you work with people individually, and let's
Uh-huh.
just complete the part of the university first. Is that
Okay.
a self-guided process? Is it live with you? Is it a group container? How does it
Yeah,
work?
yeah. So right now, I'm going to share screen really quick. Right now, the level 1 course is a group container. It's going to be launching again in early June, and it's a 12-week journey. And again, it's to clarify your purpose, get empowered, rise into leadership. And ultimately, I have found that I was in service to awakening souls this last round, but it was all women who showed up.
Mhm.
So here it is. It's for future women leaders, visionary leaders. And you can find out more on the website. It's 1111unified.com/university. And right here, it explains who it's for. And then when you come further down, it shows you the portals. And that we move through 7 different portals through the course. And each one has its own piece of the modality. So the first portal is receive love. The second is discover your superpowers. The third is reclaim your sovereignty. And then resource yourself, live your bliss, unleash your creative muse, and create freedom. So you can find out more about it on the university website page. And what I created was, at the end of the virtual event, we actually gathered together at Joy Oasis, my private retreat center here in Occidental California. So we have a little like kind of graduation ceremony, and we get to be together live and like hold each other and hug each other. And some women who've never even met each other except for being on the Zoom calls, they got to meet in person. And what was really wonderful about that weekend, we just had our graduation a couple weeks ago from this round, is that each woman got 30 to 45 minutes where she shared her own transmission. She shared what she wants to offer to the community. For instance, Patrice wants to offer her breath work, again, her rebirthing breath work. And so she guided us through a rebirthing breathwork experience. Jody Sunshine wants to create music, and so she guided us through something surrounding music and opening our voice. And Heather Starr as well created mantras and did a whole sing-along section. So it was really, really delightful to witness and see the transformation and the growth that each of these women had, and then what they came and shared and offered in the circle. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I love that you're giving people this opportunity to channel their what is coming through them, because so many people are having this call right now. And it is so important that there are spaces for people to go to learn and mentor and connect and find safe spaces to be able to bring it forward into this world in a good way. So that's awesome. You're doing a really exciting event, an Egypt pilgrimage, and I would love to hear about the Egypt pilgrimage. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So Again, this will be our 15th year hosting an 11/11 gathering. And this particular trip has been in the cauldron, so to speak, and being created for the last 3 years because we had to pay for the private access to the sacred sites 3 years ago. And so now it's coming to fruition, and it's really exciting because I feel like those who are feeling called to activate their inner mystic, to initiate their higher self and step into their new embodiment, that when we visit a sacred site, that happens more quickly. We actually activate our DNA codes. We crack open the codes that you're meant to crack open at that moment in time. I feel like I've had past lives in Egypt. And so I know I've left certain bits of information for myself at different sites. And so we're going to the sites with the intention of receiving what those codes are, right? And each person will receive their own, and collectively, we're going to come together and integrate that information. So the same trip that I took, the same trip that I went on that took 12 days, the same route from Cairo to Aswan, we are doing in 20.
Oh,
And the
wow.
reason being is I wanted more time at the sites. I didn't want to cram it all in there. I didn't want to be on the bus at 5:30 a.m. and off the bus at 11 p.m. and get very little sleep. My son is going to be with me. This is a trip that's open to families with children. And we're going to have the opportunity to circle up when we get back to our resorts so that we can integrate. We have time to write, we have time to walk the gardens and journal and be at the pool and just have time to really enjoy our trip and not have it be such a rigorous, back to back, scheduling. So, and then the biggest intention of all through this entire experience is that we will be at the Temple of Isis on 11/11. And we have 3 hours of private access in the evening after the public leaves. So we'll be there on 11/11 at 11/11, and we'll be filming our unification ceremony. And this ceremony is intended to unify us all together collectively as a group, and also to recommit to ourselves or recommit to our partner. Like, it's my husband's and I 18-year wedding anniversary. So we're going to have some recommitment vows during that celebration. So again, I feel like this is the perfect opportunity to be anchoring the light and grounding the prayer for peace in the Middle East this year on 11/11, like right around the election. Like, what a perfect time to be in the Holy Land and to be doing this light work together. So I'll just quickly share a screen. You can just visually see the website. Oops, hold on. I am dancing with technology. Here we go. So you could just visually see it. And, you mentioned earlier the 4 pillars. Here's our Ascension University logo. It literally is 4 pillars of a university because 11 is a 4, and the 4 is the builder of things that last. So not just buildings like the sacred sites, also things that last in our consciousness, in our ability to keep living and creating life together. So you can find out more here. I just wanted to quickly show you a visual of the website. Similar layout as the university. Here is the itinerary, day 2, day 3, all the days, right? And so you can find out too below what's included. And then you can find out even below that pictures of our beautiful accommodations. And one of the highlights is that we will be on a wooden sailboat, the Dahabea. We're going to have 4 nights on the River Nile where we stop along the riverbanks at different temples that the big cruise ships don't stop at. And then the eco village that we're going to stay at, literally there's a view of the Temple Isis in the background. So you can read up on all that. That address is 1111unified.com/Egypt.
Awesome. Yeah, I looked over the information for all of your university and that, and the trip to Egypt looks amazing. So hopefully anybody who is watching this and you're feeling that, just that sensation in your heart, that call that's like, I need to do this. This is one of those opportunities that can be life changing. You know, it can, when these opportunities come up, I know in my life when I've taken them, they've
Yeah.
been major transformation points in my life that, you know, as a ceremony or however it wants to be looked at, marked a passageway and initiation from one thing to the next. And so they're not moments to be hesitated on, they're moments to act upon and go for it. And the links to the school and to the Egypt tour will be below or tagged on wherever this is being shown. So
Awesome.
follow the
Thank you.
call if you wish. So yeah, thank you
Yeah.
for sharing. Yeah, so anything else you would like to share here today?
Yeah, I love that you mentioned initiation because the trip itself is called 1111 Egypt Sacred Pilgrimage and Mystic Initiation, right? And really tuning into that inner mystic and um, your spiritual led life and how you can embody that by initiating whether it's a past life as a priestess or a witch or a priest or anybody who had magic to share, and then in this life we haven't felt safe to share because we were persecuted or burned at the stake or anything like that. We're going to be doing a lot of those wound clearings and healings when we're at the sites as well. So really initiating our inner mystic so that we can step into our fullest, highest embodiment. So I'm really excited about that. And also there's payment plan. We take credit cards. It's not a cash thing and everything is included except for the international flight. So all that information's on the website.
Yeah, and you're a good host too, having like, we're at least not, I've never been to Egypt with you, but at least in the performing world, when I've done stuff with you, you're a great host and guide, and you do, you know, event well. So for anyone who's watching, you know, you may or may not know who Anistara Maka is. However, I can at least personally say she's been pleasurable to experience events with. So
Thank
yeah,
you. Yeah, I've been
awesome.
hosting events for over 2 decades. I get
Yeah.
really good at it and I enjoy it so much. It's like my most favorite thing is to see all the pieces of the puzzle come together and then see the bigger picture be created by the community and just saying, look at that. It's so beautiful.
Awesome. I love it. Excellent. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing and showing up and for doing your work and stepping into it. And I'm, you know, looking over just your website and everything that you've put together, like really good job, because sometimes it's not easy to, you know, at least for me as a business person doing it, like the artist, the mystic, the spiritual, I've got all that down really well, but trying to do the business side of it for me has been like the part. So you've done a great job at organizing and putting it together in a good way. And I think that's a positive inspiration for everybody, for women stepping into that, to know that you can carry the mystical spiritual codes, your medicine gifts, and you can also hold the business side of it, and you can come together in this world and show up and be in a good way. So like, you are a very good, you know, positive role model in that on a lot of fronts. So thank you so
Oh,
much
thank
for
you.
being who you are and doing what you do.
Oh, thanks. I really appreciate that. I have my mentors too, and I have
Yeah.
an amazing dream team. Like, there's no way I could be doing this alone. So I honor each and every one of my dream team. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you all. Mwah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Yep. It's such a pleasure being here. And thank you, Sequoia.